everybody, Christy Size here. I am here dropping some more knowledge today about buying a new primary residence and if you should keep your existing primary home or if you should sell it. Now, if you have not been here before and you're just stumbling upon me, I would love if you would hit the subscribe button and of course the notification bell so that you are notified every time I drop some info. So without further ado, here we go. All right, guys, so let's just jump right into it. So many people think that they need to sell their existing property in order to buy a new property. Now, in some cases that may be true, but in a lot of cases, it's really not. So I would love to educate you guys and give you an idea of what you can do with this huge probably amount of equity that you're sitting on. Now, I'm a huge believer in building long-term wealth for yourself and for your family. And so this is exactly what this video is going to be about. So what I wanted to really get into is, in some cases, people, number one, only sell their house because they think they need that capital to put towards a new home. That's number one. Number two, they're just not educated as, what they can do with that property. So a big gear of what I'm going to talk about today is holding on to that property and turning it into a rental home and qualifying for a new primary residence. So you have to ask yourself, number one, do I need the capital to put down towards a new home? And I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but you're going to be surprised you really don't need a lot, if any, for a down payment. And number two, do you need that capital to pay off any other existing debt? Or if you're in a situation where you really need that capital, we've got solutions for that too. And number three, you really want to evaluate if you're in a highly desirable rental area and what the rental comps look like. Now, when I say rental comps, that means long-term rental and short-term rental. I know I just threw that at you guys pretty quickly, but you want to evaluate rental comps. Now, if you're not really comfortable doing that on your own, reach out to a real estate agent. If it's not me, reach out to somebody that you know that is comfortable doing that for you and give you a really good idea. Now, number two is evaluating the short-term rental. Now, you can easily look on Airbnb, see what certain things are going for, or VRBO. Here in the Phoenix area, we have a huge market for short-term need. And in some cases, that might be more advantageous than a long-term rental. So let me tell you the difference just a little bit. So long-term rental obviously is typically a 12-month or longer lease term, and you charge a certain dollar amount per month, and the house is typically unfurnished. Now, if you go to the short-term side, you're going to typically leave that home furnished with all of the furnishings, and you're going to charge a premium every month for that. Now, most people will say, I have a short-term rental, but I require a minimum of a 30-day or a 60-day or a 90-day, commitment for that. And of course, you're going to charge a premium. Now, here living in the Phoenix area, we have a huge need because people are building homes left and right and they need a short-term place to stay. Two, we're spring training. We've got the Cactus League that comes here, huge need for short-term. On top of medical, we have a lot of medical patients and professionals that need short-term housing. There's just a plethora of need. There's just a ton of need for short-term. So a lot of investors are somewhat swinging towards the short-term rental side. Now, the reason for that being you can charge a larger rate, right? Two, there's less wear and tear on your property because people aren't moving their belongings in and out. They're basically treating it like a hotel, so there's less wear and tear on your property. And it just might be a really good situation for you because there is a higher rate of return and less wear and tear on the property. Again, you need to evaluate the numbers. Let's just say your mortgage is $1,700 a month and you evaluate the long-term rental and you think it's just going to be less hassle for you, and you evaluated you could rent the property out for $2,300 a month. Guess what? Even if you pay, a property manager, you're still going to be positive cash flow on that property. And when you're applying for a new primary residence, all you're going to tell your lender is, I'm going to rent my property out, my mortgage is X amount, and rental comps are showing me I can rent this property for X amount. They're going to say, okay, it's a wash. That doesn't get, attributed. It turns into essentially an investment home, which doesn't get attributed towards your monthly expense. It's no longer your expense because a tenant is going to be paying that expense. So that automatically qualifies you for a new primary residence, and here's the kicker. You all on my story last week said you expected a new home, if you held on to your existing property, that you would need a 20 to 30% down payment. No, you can qualify for a new primary residence for as little as $0 down, guys. Zero. There are loan programs here in the Phoenix metro area that you can qualify for a 0 down payment. So that is huge. So you can hold on to your existing home, qualify for a new home with a 0 to 5% minimum down, and now you have 2 properties. But somebody else is paying for your first one, and typically you have a positive cash flow, so you're pocketing money on top of them paying your mortgage. And now you're building long-term wealth for yourself because you're holding on to 2 properties. And every year you're gaining the equity while somebody else is paying for that. Now last year in Phoenix, we had an average of 17% equity gain. Some areas saw 15 and some saw up to 20. So think about that. You hold that property for another 3 to 5 years. That's a big, big chunk of money in your pocket. Definitely something to consider. And the last point that I'm going to make is, let's say you don't want to do the 0 down and you want to do the 5% conventional, right? If you qualify for that. And you're like, but Christy, I don't really have that just laying around anywhere. But your home has an exponential amount of equity. Guess what? You can pull that equity off of your house to put into a new property. It is called a home equity line of credit. A lot of people will call it a HELOC loan. Of course, you're going to have a monthly payment on that, but it's going to be very, very minimal because you're only going to pull just a small amount to be able to put down in a new property, and you'll eventually pay that off. So there's options and there's resources out there, guys. You just need to ask the questions. And it's funny, right? For a real estate agent telling you, hold on to your property, don't sell it. Trust me, I'm trying to look out for everybody's best interest. This is actually something that I am doing myself. I am doing this and I am rinsing and repeating and recycling this process, and you continue to hold more and more properties, which of course is going to, yield in long-term wealth for you and your family. It's definitely something to consider. And if you guys have any questions, you know where to find me, and I will be right here waiting. Everybody take care. Have a great day.